You may not have noticed that Nigel Farage has quit UKIP after 25 years. He said the party had become too fixated by the anti-Muslim policies of its leader, Gerard Batten, and he criticised Mr Batten's appointment of Tommy Robinson as an advisor. And Gerard Batten, MEP, is with me now. Welcome to you.
Right.
So you prefer Tommy Robinson over Nigel Farage?
Well, Nigel obviously hasn't read the manifesto that we published in September because there aren't any anti-Muslim policies in it, and there wouldn't be because we're not anti-Muslim. I think that this is Mr Farage. He tried to engineer a vote of no confidence against me in the MEPs last week. He tried to do that on Sunday in his NEC. He failed dismally both times, and I think this is just sour grapes. He's been looking for an excuse to walk away for 2 years, and now he's found it.
Tommy Robinson, though, is a man who's been to prison several times, including for mortgage fraud. He's a man who trades under aliases, and anybody who's seen him and the English Defence League outside courts knows that their message to Muslim people in this country is pretty clear. So you are choosing to associate UKIP, the party you and Nigel Farage created, with him, aren't you?
First of all, they don't say the EDL don't stand outside courts with him because the EDL doesn't exist anymore. He walked away from that a long time ago when it was overtaken.
There.
I don't know how old
I think we've seen quite a lot of EDL there.
And if concerning people with criminal convictions, you've got 4 of them sitting over in there in the House of Lords who make laws over us. People have criminal convictions, they then come out of prison, they resume their lives. Are we saying that people then can't do something once they've served their sentence? Now, what I'd really like to talk about is Brexit, because that's far more important.
I want to come on to Brexit, but I do want to come on to this because, you know, Nigel Farage is a very well-known public figure, and he has effectively said he has no confidence in your leadership. You're saying he's trying to undermine you.
The MEPs haven't said that, and the NEC haven't said that, and the membership haven't said that.
No, I understand that. But, you know, I do want to talk a bit more about Mr Robinson because, frankly, he is a dodgy and unpleasant character, isn't he?
He isn't unpleasant. You've obviously never met him and interviewed him. Why don't you have him on?
I have actually interviewed him.
Quite amiable
so don't make that allegation. But, you know, what about endangering a trial of people accused of very serious sexual crimes by his misbehaviour outside courts?
In the one in Canterbury, he pleaded guilty and he accepted that he'd done the wrong thing. The last one, there was no case against him.
Why do you want to associate yourself with someone who does the wrong thing and who endangers trials?
If somebody does the wrong thing and admits it, then isn't that what we're supposed to do? And he's admitted he did the wrong thing then, and he's accepted the blame.
And do you agree with him that there is a kind of whitewash, that we're not being given the details of what is going on in these crimes and who is responsible?
Well, we know from a recent statement from the Crown Prosecution Service that they were told, the police were told not to investigate because this was considered to be people's lifestyles. What I think that Tommy wants to do in the future going forward is to look at why these crimes were covered up and to uncover why in the social services, in the police, that they weren't actually investigated. So I think that's quite a useful thing for him to do.
And he's going to advise you on prisons. What's he got to say other than that?
He's told me already about how they're run, the prisoners run the prisons, they're run by prison gangs, how drugs are rife in prison, how prison officers are bribed to bring in telephones and drugs because they're so badly paid.
So that's what he was up to when he was in prison, is it?
I don't think he was in solitary confinement, actually, but people are talking to him through the bars, telling him that they're going to kill him, which is why he couldn't eat the food that was served to him. So I think someone like that, and in fact, I like to, when I take my advice from people, whether they be prison officers or police officers, I like to get it first-hand from the people at the front line.
OK, you're planning on employing any more ex-convicts?
No, not unless the people in the House of Lords are looking for a job.
Well, you do have some MEPs in the House of Lords, some members of the House of Lords, sorry, I'm getting confused here. And what's your instructions to them? I mean, they will have a vote. It won't actually affect things.
Do you mean on the Brexit deal?
Yes.
Oh, to vote against it, we have to dump the deal.
Why?
Because it's... We've now spent... This whole thing is an engineered concoction whereby, for 2 years, they've spent...
Otherwise known as a political process.
Well, no, I think it's worse than that. They've been working hand in glove with the European Union to arrive at a situation where you have a withdrawal agreement that nobody wants, the Leavers don't want it, the Remainers don't want it. They're telling, first of all, it went from being a good deal to now the only deal you're going to get.
But isn't that compromise?
It's been pulled to pieces.
No, because in a divided nation.
No, I'm afraid you don't. we're not leaving. We're going to continue under this transition period, the so-called backstop that we can't get out of because we can't have a unilateral right to withdrawal. We're going to continue paying them lots of money. We're going to continue with open borders. And the whole thing has been concocted so that the political establishment can say, oh, it's far too difficult, we can't leave, so we have to stay in.
Yeah, but you're falling into their trap if you vote against the deal, because maybe that will happen.
No,
maybe the political establishment will assert
what is the
itself,
point?
and Britain will remain.
What is the point in...
That would be a bit of an own goal.
What is the point in voting for something where you haven't really left anyway? Well, I've been advocating for 25 years, long before Nigel Farage got on the bandwagon, by the way. It was unilateral, unconditional withdrawal, whereby Parliament takes control of the process and so repeals the 1972 European Community Tax as a first step, tells the European Union we just left. But don't worry, because all EU-derived law remains in place, but we're now going to start amending and repealing it, and we'll tell you how it's going to work in a cooperative and friendly spirit.
And what do you think the economic impact of that would be?
I think the economy would boom, because I also did a lot of work over those 25 years on the cost of the European Union to our economy. And the biggest cost, and not the money we hand over, is the indirect cost on farming, fishing and over-regulation on business. And Professor Tim Condon, a year or two ago, calculated that was up to 12% of GDP. Now, we could make enormous savings by not being in. We can generate more trade, we can buy cheaper food, but you have to have the Houses of Parliament that actually want to do that to make it work.